you're having a beautiful day today. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hello, my name is Julia and welcome. Happy to have you. If you have watched any of my other videos, you know I like my big bootables. You know I also like to spice things up. I like flavor. I like bold and intense and beautiful flavors. And you can add a delicious salad dressing to a delicious bootable, just levels it up. You know? All of these recipes that I'm sharing with you guys are super simple, minimal ingredients, vegan, and I think they're all gluten-free as well. I love making my own salad dressings at home, and I've been doing it for years upon years. Oftentimes we go to the grocery store and we buy a pre-made salad dressing, and the second ingredient is sugar, followed by additives and preservatives and all of these other things that really aren't needed. If you try any of these recipes, please let me know down in the comments. Without further ado, let's get on to the recipes.
We're starting off by making a creamy garlic dressing, and what you're going to need for this is some sort of plain yogurt, Dijon mustard, salt, pepper, parsley, onion powder, garlic, lemon, olive oil, and some maple syrup. First things first, we're going to need some roasted garlic for all of these recipes, so I just took off the extra skins of 2 heads of garlic, laid them on some tin foil, and drizzled about 1 teaspoon of olive oil on top of them. After that, I just wrapped them up in the tin foil. I just grabbed all 4 corners, pulled it up to the top, and gave the top a little squeeze, and then lined them onto a dish. I then baked them for about 40 minutes at 350. To start our creamy garlic dressing, we're going to add 1 cup of our plain yogurt to a mason jar, along with half of a lemon. We're starting off in a mason jar, and then I'm actually going to bottle it after we're finished, but feel free to keep any of these recipes in mason jars in the fridge. We're then adding 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 heaping tablespoon of our roasted garlic, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and 1 teaspoon of parsley. And then we're going to finish it off by adding about 1/4 cup of water to our jar, screwing on the lid and giving it a really good shake. After that's done, we're going to grab a bottle and a funnel and just funnel our dressing into our bottle. This may take a minute, so just give it a little patience, and if you don't have a bottle or a funnel, that's totally okay. Like I said, just keep it in mason jars and they're going to store it just as well. I just like doing this because I find it pours better over a salad. And now we're on to the classic balsamic vinaigrette dressing, which is one of my favorites, and I have this so many times in a week. What can I say? It's delicious. Anyways, what we're going to need for this is a balsamic vinaigrette, olive oil, Dijon mustard, salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, and maple syrup. We're going to start off by adding 1/4 cup of olive oil to our bottle or jar. I decided to try and do this one straight into the bottle, but trust me, it was not a good idea trying to squeeze all of the spices and other things into the bottle. It just was not easy, so don't make the same mistake that I made. I then added 1 cup of balsamic vinaigrette, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. It's okay if you spill a little, it's all going to even out eventually. I then added very carefully 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and then 1 heaping teaspoon of the roasted garlic that we did at the beginning of the video. I then gave the bottle a really good shake to try and get the Dijon mustard and roasted garlic away from the top of the bottle. I then added 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of dried basil. Feel free to use fresh basil because it's a really nice element. I just didn't have enough in the house for this recipe as well today. Now we're on to the peanut butter Asian inspired dressing, which is definitely my second favorite out of all of these. And what we're going to need is tamari or soy sauce, sesame oil, chili flakes, fresh ginger, garlic, rice vinegar, maple syrup, and some powdered peanut butter. You can also use natural peanut butter for this or any other nut butter. Cashew butter works great. Almond butter isn't the best, but it still does work quite well. So I cut off about 1.5 inches of fresh ginger, so a large chunk of ginger, and now I'm just grating it on my cheese grater on the smaller holes. And what this is going to allow me to do is get all of the pulp of the ginger and actually squeeze all of the amazing juice out of the ginger. So that way I don't have to like put chunks of ginger into this salad dressing. I just get all of the delicious ginger juice. So after I've squeezed all of the juice out of the pulp using a fine mesh strainer, I am adding 1 cup of tamari. Feel free to use soy sauce, 1/4 cup of sesame oil. I wouldn't suggest using olive oil for this one, but maybe a canola oil or vegetable oil because it's lighter in flavor. Now I'm adding 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, and this is to add that acidity, but feel free free to use like half of a lime, and then 1 teaspoon of onion powder, half of a teaspoon of chili flakes. Feel free to use less or more depending on your spice preference, and 2 tablespoons of PB2, and then 1 teaspoon of roasted garlic, and then a couple tablespoons of maple syrup just to balance out the flavor. And then we're just going to screw on that lid again and shake it on up. Make sure you shake it really, really well to get all of the powdered peanut butter mixed in, as well as the roasted garlic all broken up into the dressing as well. So this spicy Chipotle Mexi dressing is definitely the spiciest out of all of them, but you can modify it and I'll explain how in just a minute. So we need some plain vegan yogurt, Dijon mustard, salt, garlic powder, onion powder, lime, cilantro, maple syrup, and some chipotles. So first things first, we're going to take our dried chipotles and pour over some hot water, and then just cover that with a lid or a plate. My one lid just fits perfectly on that bowl, so I use that. And we're actually going to make this dressing in the blender. So we're going to add a cup of our yogurt and a cup of water as well, because we got a lot of ingredients going in here, so we need that extra water to help things move along and get the right consistency for our dressing. I then added half of a cup of packed cilantro. So after about 25 minutes of our chipotles soaking, I just ripped one of them open and took out the seeds. You can take both seeds out or even just use one chipotle versus 2. It really just depends your spice preference. So what we did is we added 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And now we're squeezing in half of a lime's juice. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup as well. And then we're just going to blend that up. Feel free to add another tablespoon of maple syrup just to balance out that flavor. All of these recipes can be played with quite a bit to get exactly what you would like, but these are a great base point. Now we're on to the classic Greek dressing, which is so damn delicious. And what we're going to need for this is a lemon, some fresh basil, some fresh oregano, garlic, olive oil, Dijon mustard, black pepper, salt, and some olives. So what we're going to do is actually make this in the blender as well, because we want to break up the fresh herbs. So we're just squeezing in an entire lemon and then adding a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And blending the olive oil makes it a little bit more creamy and delicious as well. And then we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of water, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 big teaspoon of roasted garlic, a big handful of fresh basil, and a small handful of fresh oregano. Feel free to use dried spices, but fresh spices definitely work a lot better for this. And then we just added 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and we're going to blend this all on up. I had some parsley hanging around, so I decided to throw a small handful of that in there too, but feel free to not, totally up to you. I poured that into my jar and then added half of a teaspoon of black pepper and a bunch of olives to this as well. Feel free to pass on the olives, but it really adds that nice Greek feel in there as well, and it's just so damn yummy. So I just chopped up some black olives really finely and added them to my dressing. I used about 7 olives in total, but feel free to add less or even more if you desire. And then I added 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, gave it a shake. This one was a little tricky because of the olive chunks, but just give it a second and you'll figure it out. This one can also be used as a meat marinade. Sorry to all of the vegans out there, including myself.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate it. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button, and I will see you again soon